And we value our trees, our yards, and the natural resources of this town and Long Island. We all live here.
Was this a vacant lot?
It was after the trees were, we have a poster board here. There was a house there. It was demolished. Completely, you could see everything was taken down. They demolished the original house, and now a new house is erected on the property. A house, a pool, a basketball court.
Thank you. I think you raised a very important point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to see it. Yeah.
Roberta Post.
Good afternoon. My name is Roberta Post. I'm a resident of Maple Street in West Hempstead. And what makes Garden City, Muttontown, Glen Cove, and many of our neighboring towns so appealing? Their tree-lined streets. The reason they've maintained their appeal is due in part to the beautiful trees. In West Hempstead, on Maple and Elm Street, that appeal is in imminent danger. I'm here today to ask you to consider implementing serious zoning ordinances to save our trees. In doing my research, I was shocked to find out that in Nassau County, the restrictions on removal of trees on private land vary greatly from town to town. The town of Hempstead generally allows homeowners to remove trees without a permit, but in the adjacent town of Oyster Bay, homeowners must apply for a permit to remove trees of at least 8 inches in diameter. Oyster Bay often sends out an inspector, and violators can face fines of $350 to $1,000 per tree. In North Hempstead, homeowners must pay and apply for a permit to remove front yard trees larger than 10 inches in diameter. The application must include a drawing of the yard, trees, photos of the tree, an erosion control plan, and a signed statement from a certified arborist, including the health of the tree. The City of Glen Cove has strengthened its ordinances in recent years and now requires homeowners to pay a small fee and get approval before taking down a significant tree. In Muttontown, a resident faced fines of $23,000 for cutting down 7 trees on his property without a permit. The removal of trees across Nassau County provide a way for officials to defend the suburban and secluded feel of our neighborhoods. Officials said, citing the importance of preserving trees to provide summer shades for home and wildlife. Many Long Island tree laws include fines in the thousands of dollars to residents for illegally removing trees. The destruction and indiscriminate removal of trees, shrubs, related vegetation disrupts our ecological balance in nature and causes increased village costs for proper drainage control, impairs the benefits of occupancy of existing residential properties, and impairs the stability and the value on both improved and unimproved homes. I brought a poster board that I made, if you'd like to see it up close, showing you our beautiful neighborhood and now what is becoming of it, where you just see these houses going up with completely barren, the trees in the back, the trees in the front, and all these beautiful big trees that are cut down. And whenever I see the tree removal people and I go, oh my gosh, what are you doing? They go, I know it's terrible, but there's no law, and so we have to, it's a job, we have to cut them down. I had a wildlife expert come to my home because here's a tree in my backyard and you see a raccoon out in the daytime. And I've been there for 47 years, and time to time I get raccoons during the day who are just hungry. I now have condominiums because every time these trees are cut down, there's nowhere for them to go, and so they're all piling into my yard. I've had other animals. I had squirrels in my house, mice in my house, which I've never had before, but every time this construction takes place, there's nowhere else to go. So I really urge you to look into this matter. The whole neighborhood is just changing. I know some of you have had friends on Maple Street and have been there before and have seen the beauty of why I live there, and it's starting to look like Brooklyn and Queens. People are just coming in, and the first thing they do is cut down every tree, then knock down the house and put up a little mega mansion, which is their right to do. But I went to one of the neighbors and I said, would you please consider leaving just some of the trees in front for us? What you do in the back is your business. And he said, I don't give a damn about the trees. And that really hurt. So I'm going to leave this if you want to take a look at it.
Thank you. And again, thank you for raising this point. And I think that's something that we as a town board can look at, maybe perhaps strengthening some of our tree ordinances and putting something in place more like Oyster Bay.
I think it's a win-win because we would keep our trees and you could collect
We-
that revenue from town permits.
And we've just become a tree city this year, so it's where we're going. So thank you so much. Felix Procacci.
Felix Procacci, 1165 Barnes Street, Franklin Square, New York. First, I have 2 copies of some documents. I'd like one copy given to the supervisor and one to the town attorney. This is for later. I can discuss this right now. On the fees that we raised, what we did in this budget, which was unusual because I've asked about this question in the past. We raised fees in the past, and I've asked back in 2014 and 15 and 16 and 17, we raised fees, and I asked the question, how much revenue are we going to get? And in each case, the comptroller always said, we always need at least 1 year of data before we make any projections. And what happened this year is, based on these fee increases, we didn't wait for 1 year projection. Right away, we made the assumption, I think it was 600,000, whatever. It was a number. And I think that's, I'm not sure why we're changing the practice, because I've always asked that question, I said going back to 2014. Also, when the attorney here was speaking, the clock wasn't running. The board didn't suspend the rules, so you violated the open meetings law. You violated your own rules. You had to if you were going to let him talk without the clock running, you would have had to suspend the rules. He can't just talk like that. The meeting rules here are based on Robert Rules of Order, and the specific rules that the town board passed take precedence when there's a conflict. I just want to read a passage from Robert Rules of Order. Before a member in an assembly can make a motion or speak in a debate, the parliamentary name given from any form of discussion of the merits of a motion, he must obtain the floor and he must be recognized by the chair. So I know there was a little debate over whether that's the case. That is the rule, unless we want to change the town rules that would override and let anyone speak anytime they want, and I'm sure that would work out well, right? On paragraph 6 motions, or section 6 motions, on section 6C, it says all motions are subject to debate except the motions listed in 6B, for example, and that's to adjourn, a previous question, conduct an executive session, lay on the table. And what was said at the August 7th meeting and the September 4th meetings on items that were postponed indefinitely, we were told by the parliamentarian that they were not debatable. But according to the town's own rules and to Robert Rules of Order, which I have copies here, they are debatable. But postpone indefinitely is debatable right now. I've read it. I have copies. I've went through it many times. I believe I'm correct on it. I triple-checked myself on this. So we either going to allow postponing indefinitely to be debatable, or we're going to change the rules. On the issue of mailings, it is important to provide accurate information to residents, but it is also to provide information that the residents want to receive. On October 5th, 2010, 8 years ago, I provided a form to the town board, and it essentially, I can't find it, but here, just a sample, basically sending to residents with a postage returned, so they have no reason for not putting this, they don't have to put a stamp on it. And this is to emphasis. We can make a nice mailing and ask them, what kind of mailings do you want to receive? Park, activities, and everything else. I've been consistent in all the 8 years I've been here in that I believe in choice. I believe that people, if they want to spend their money on mailings, and I've heard that from people, and some people say they don't want to, give them a choice. It would be a one-time, maybe you want to send a second mailing to reinforce it 3 or 4 weeks later in case they were away, they didn't get it, it got lost. So 2 times, give them an opportunity, plus make it available, this form, online, so they could opt out. each resident will get an ID based on where they live. It'll be unique, for that address. So if they, so they could change it and they could add, they want to receive the mailings for certain things now. So I think that that's what we should do, because I think the people are the most important thing.
I think that's a good idea, Mr. Procacci.
On the issue of financial disclosures, the town is still in violation of its own ethics law, and the explanation given to the press never explains how it's a violation of privacy or anything else. I think if we're going to, you haven't done it yet, but if you're going to go down the road of rescinding it, that you're not going to require all town officials to give the disclosures that are required by law, I think the public deserves an explanation as to why exactly what it is. I've foiled a number of these financial disclosures, and they basically give very little information. I don't think I could steal anyone's identity based on what I've seen. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Procacci. Mita Meriday?
Ms. Meredith, do you mind if you just hold for 1 second? I just want to bring something up. Being that we're on disclosures and discussing disclosures, I think that this should be brought up. It probably should have been brought up before we voted. But on item 48 in today's administrative calendar, it's something that I brought up when we first voted on the contract probably months ago. Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services. This is a company who I believe one of the executives is the brother of your former boss supervisor and the chairman of your transition team. Now, this isn't somebody who just was a donor or a friend. This is someone who chaired your transition team to go from private life to public service and become the supervisor of the largest township in the nation. Now, his brother is the executive vice president of the company that we just granted this contract to. Now, if for someone who ran a campaign and continues to use transparency as their favorite word, I think that if there was ever a time that we should be transparent, it should be that you do have and to say that you don't know who they are or what they're part of, to me, is ridiculous. So I think moving forward, at the very least, item number 48, you should have recused yourself from, especially someone who took joy in crushing me about voting for a $2,500 raise for my mother, who worked for the town of Hempstead for probably 3 decades. So if there's ever a time that you should have stepped up and said, you know what, I'm going to sit this one out, this was it.
I had nothing to do with the selection of that vendor, and you already disclosed at a prior meeting that a brother of a law partner of mine worked for this company. That has no bearing on the company's merits. It has no bearing on my decision.
I don't point the finger at the company. I point the finger at you.
I'm speaking.
Okay, I'm going to finish. I'm going to point the finger at you because you are the one who voted for it just now.
Esposito, so you can hold your comments. I don't know where every brother, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle of people that I formerly worked with work, and they may work for some vendors who do business with the town. There's a very rigorous process that we've put in place for the selection of vendors, and I'm never involved in any of those
Well,
processes.
just to point out, this is not someone that you just worked for. This is the brother of the individual who chaired your transition team. Stop trying to make it that it's not important. You know exactly who it is. You know who's involved in this company, and don't sit here and tell all the residents, the ones that are listening at home and the ones that are here, that you have no idea who's part of this company.
No, you pointed it out at a prior board meeting. I didn't even realize.
And I will
until you
continue to
pointed
point it out every
then.
time you vote for it, just like you did when
I
you
had
went
no-
after my
I
family
had no
over and
role in
over
the
again.
selection of Arthur J. Gallagher, and the fact that the brother of someone I used to work with has no bearing on whether or not they get a contract with the town of Hempstead. Ms. Meriday, do you want to continue your remarks?
It's amazing how immediate family doesn't matter now. It mattered a year ago, that's for sure.
No one in my family works for the town of Hempstead except my niece, who was hired before I was supervisor, who works as a staff member at Camp Anchor, hired by the prior administration, not me. That's the only person in my family who works for the town of Hempstead, unlike you, Councilman.
Correct, but my family members also worked here way before I was on the town board as well, so if you want to point fingers. But going back to this resolution, this individual's brother did chair your transition team. He did chair your transition team. He has been a supporter of yours, and you did work for his brother. So let's be very clear. Thank you. I'm
And
sorry,
I
Ms.
never voted
Maraday.
to give my niece a raise, nor would I ever be involved to give my niece a raise, voting for giving my niece a raise. So, Ms. Maraday, do you want to go ahead?
This seems to be just kind of typical town of Hempstead, which is very sad.
I agree.
My comments have to do with, well, particular again, reading in Newsday with regard to the IDA, the payment situation, and the town not paying the county. Could someone speak to that?
This has to do with the dispute between Nassau County and the town of Hempstead, where Nassau County was retaining funds that Nassau County said the town of Hempstead owed them and deducting it from our sales tax payments. The IDA, town of Hempstead IDA, has now decided they don't want to be part of this. By the way, the practice has stopped because we've agreed with the county that on both ends the practice will stop. They'll no longer withhold our sales tax money. If we owe them money, they're going to come to us. But it went on for a number of years, and it put our budget in very bad shape because they would just come up with this thing. One year they came up with $8 million that they didn't send us, and we hadn't budgeted for it. So we decided to hold back from them what we owed them. And so that's how the whole thing started. The whole thing has now been resolved. The town of Hempstead IDA is now going to send the pilot funds belonging to the county directly to the county.
And what's the situation with the $125,000? I mean, all these types of components, aren't those also considered in this budget that was recently approved? What's the story with this $125,000?
There was a fee paid by the IDA to the Comptroller's Office that the IDA, since they're not going to be using the Comptroller's Office any longer, will not be paid. The IDA, by the way, did not consult the town board when they did this. They did that unilaterally.
Okay. Well, the newspaper said that there was no comment from the town, so I was just curious as to what
Well,
was.
it basically is an IDA issue. It's not a town board issue.
But it's funds that can impact taxpayers, is that not correct?
If you're asking me, does that mean we get $125,000 less? Yes, but the matter has just come up. They did it unilaterally. There are discussions going on about it.
So this issue is still ongoing, in other words?
Correct.
Okay. As it pertains to the previous meetings with regard to these new positions or a new position as it pertains to veterans and now encompassing a whole nother level when it talks about mental health, I'm still concerned as to where the additional funding is going to come from, because decisions seem to be made and then it's like after the fact things get added on, but then there doesn't seem to be the resources to make these things happen. So I'm curious as to where, because I have not seen anything of substance as it pertains to a true growth model. Having this forum this evening, again, I want to be hopeful, but I am still very concerned that this really does not scratch the true surface, considering the number of veterans that we have here, the needs that we have here, and the lack of an infrastructure as it pertains to a business development model that speaks to not only service disabled and veteran-owned businesses, but minority and women-owned businesses. So is this year going to be we're going to try to put something together for veterans, and then maybe next year we'll incorporate minorities and women? I mean, how does that impact someone, for example, who is also a veteran, a service-disabled veteran, and the minority and a woman, for example? Can anyone speak to that?
So regarding your question about the substance abuse person that we're going to be rolling out, that was all in the budget. I mean, we have money allocated for that in the 2018 budget.
Right. My focus has to do with trying to address the issues before it becomes a situation where a returning veteran has to resort to substance abuse or other challenges because they are frustrated that they cannot get the job that they need to pay for the home that they have served our country to protect. That's the issue that we have facing here. When 1 in 4 of our residents, our community, our population in the homeless community are veterans. When veterans lead the nation in suicides, when they lead the nation in divorce and domestic misconduct. That's where my concern is, because this is where I live, this is where I pay taxes. And we are so far behind the 8 ball for the amount of taxes that we pay, and the concerns that I have continued to bring to this forum, to this format, that I feel that are just getting these, as I'm told, these small steps that I'm supposed to celebrate. Well, I don't celebrate the small steps, especially after I read about, a van that will travel this region to support the pets of a veteran, but we can't put resources to provide the mobile access on a regular basis for our veterans themselves. So I need someone to speak to this as pertains to just addressing the mental health. That's all well and good, but why aren't we doing something proactive before they get to that point where we have seniors that are living in fear of foreclosure?
So it's the mental health and the substance abuse, just to be clear about that. Separately, I think collectively, we do need to do a better job regarding outreach to veterans. I don't disagree with you at all. We have a huge problem that we do not provide enough resources to them, and I think going forward, we have to figure out ways to help them better. I don't disagree with you on that. I mean, this is one small step. I acknowledge that. We have limited funds, but I think going forward, we do have to do more.
It's just sad that we keep saying that we have the limited funds when it comes to our veterans, but we seem to be fighting all types of resources and finding funding and supports and grants and underwriting for all of these other projects. Notwithstanding for those, it is important, notwithstanding that. But again, we keep saying that when it comes to our veterans, the small steps are supposed to be something that we're satisfied with.
Oh, I don't think we should be satisfied at all.
But we're not doing anything different. We're not doing anything different. I have not seen any, again, in this current budget, I have not seen anything of significance that speaks to where we should be in 2018 in this region where we're America's first suburb, and that where many of our veterans who served in World War II and the Korean War still live here and they struggle to live here. I have not seen anything different.
As far as mental health, a van pulling up in front of a veteran's house saying veterans' mental health is going to embarrass him in front of his neighbors, and he's not going to want to go or have them come to his neighborhood, 1. 2, taking blood and doing EKGs.
Mental health.
It's, you said suicides and mental health. You did say that. So a van coming around, and the federal government has the doctors that treat veterans for not only mental health problems, not only PTSD, not only, but the physical problems. And if they have to do an EKG, I don't know how good it would be in a van, or taking blood, I'm sure that they can go to a VFW hall or American Legion hall, which outpatient facilities have been set up in Lynbrook, in Massapequa, and we have the Veterans Administration comes over to Nassau County University Medical Center, and I use that as an outpatient facility. And I get EKGs done and blood drawn there. So I get use of Nassau County Medical Center. It's a lot more convenient than going all the way to Northport. So it is something that has been addressed by the federal government. Is it as great as we wanted? No, it's not. You know, we wanted a medical hospital here, not just an outpatient facility. We wanted that, and we tried to get that. But you have to have a sister hospital here, as NYU is right next to the VA on First Avenue and 23rd Street. There's VA hospitals have a school, a medical school attached to it in that county. We didn't provide that in Nassau County, therefore we weren't able to get the facility. And then we were, under Tom Gallardo, the county executive, were able to get the outpatient facility over at Nassau County Medical Center. So we were able to bring it into Nassau. But now, getting a van to go around to the community, that's something that the Veterans Administration has to do, because they have to be professionals. They have to have the expertise in treating veterans for their gunshot wounds or the mental disabilities, or their to mend their wounds from amputations. That has to be done at the facility like the medical center, and which we do have here. But we can't go traveling. They don't have that ability yet, and maybe they will in the future, but that's a federal government. Town of Hempstead can't do that. We'd have to hire doctors then. And then we have to hire, and they would have to be okayed by the VA. It's a big transition. They won't even do it with the county, which is a lot bigger than us, and they wouldn't do it with us in the county. So the town of Hempstead, which is the largest, probably larger than most counties in the country too, if that can happen, you darn well that I'll make it happen. But right now, it doesn't look like it's going to go that way. So getting a van to go around like you do for pets, to clip their nails or to check their ears out or whatever they do for the pets, they're not going to be able to do that for human beings which have complex problems. Nobody's more complex than a human being. And the men and women that serve our country over in war zones, they come home with complex problems, really, really, and then they come home to bigger problems with their children not saying that you're not the same mom that left. You know, you're not the same woman I married. You're not the same man I married if it's a female. It's really, there's so much complexion there that they can't do it in a van, a traveling van, that should be done in a facility if they go to the veterans facilities like the VFWs and American Legions, which they try to do, then that can be handled. So I appreciate working with you, and I'll continue to work with you. And if you have these ideas, you want to further pursue it, let's do it. I want your help. I'm asking you publicly to help. Let's see if we can do this. I'm with you.
No problem with that. I use that as an example, but there are facilities, there are RVs that have been used in rural environments that can travel. I'm not saying going
What they
around.
do, those vehicles were the veterans, the disabled American veterans vans. And what they do is they make application for service-connected disability compensation or non-service-connected disability pension and widows' pensions for those widows of veterans. So those are for application for service-connected conditions. That's what they do on those vans. They don't do any treatment on those vans.
I'm speaking with regard to an RV that's been medically equipped to provide at least initial triage services. I've not only seen it, know about it, I've been on them. So I know that it can happen. And my focus has to do with business development and job creation to avoid substance abuse and things of that nature. But to take your point, I will work with you to try to make something happen because these small steps are getting very tiresome.
I'm very proud of the Department of Occupational Resources, which Gregory Becker runs. He went to college with me, and he's a very, very bright guy, and he's very compassionate about the veterans, getting them to learn how to use computers, getting them to help them put their resumes together, to do job searching with them. They sit right there at 50 Clinton Street, is it? 50 Clinton? 50 Clinton Street. You drop by there.
I've been by there. Again, we're not on the same page, but let's work together because you're still at the occupational employment level, and I'm still talking about multi-million-dollar veteran-owned businesses who cannot get contract work in this region. They seem to be able to operate across the country. There's a veteran-owned company that just got a multi-million-dollar variance out in the town of Riverhead for a property out there. So we need to be able to do that here at that level so that we can create sustainable jobs for our veterans, so that we can get our veterans off of the foreclosure rolls right over in Mineola. That's what I'm talking about.
We're on the same page.
Thank you.
Diane Madden.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. I wanted to speak about the banned or suspended volunteer very briefly. I don't think that she's heard from the town attorney's office or investigators. The reason I bring that up is because, again, an attorney had contacted me. Now, keep in mind, she has not retained an attorney, so please don't use that against her and say she can't be spoken to. I am asking you or begging you to come up with a solution to let this woman back in. I know at one time another volunteer was unjustly banned due to some kind of accusation from a politically connected staff member. The way they resolved it, rather than to permanently ban her, was to have her come in at opposite times until they could figure it out. So I really ask you to think about that. As I speak, wonderful volunteers are fleeing out of that animal shelter under Laura Gillen's leadership, under an unqualified liaison that does more harm than good. 150 people showed up at Babylon's interview for volunteers, many of them Hempstead volunteers. You should be holding an immediate meeting to find out what their grievances are and to beg them to return. But at the same time, good volunteers are also being suspended. So please look at that. You know things are bad when reputable town officials approach you to say, I understand what you're saying, Diane, because I too have been prohibited, denied an adoption of a kitten at the animal shelter. Now, I am not going to repeat this name. You couldn't ask for a better home or more responsible, and this person left and was denied the ability to adopt a kitten as you're overflowing with animals at the animal shelter. That is shameful, but no one should be more ashamed than you, Gillen. You campaigned on this. People are leaving. Rescues are cutting their ties. And all your liaison's doing is figuring out ways to cover it all up and spend more tax dollars. You should be spending less tax dollars and bringing in the experts. I don't want to hear about your memo anymore. You sent a memo out months ago. All you're doing is flagging that around and using it against the board, who, by the way, are the people working with us to try to get some things accomplished. There's, I believe, money left in the line item for advertising. I don't know how much is left. I haven't foiled it lately, but I ask that, and I don't even know who to ask, but I ask that some of that money is used to advertise the assistant director position, please. On Indeed.com is a great place. Believe it or not, animal rescue organizations and animal-related jobs and whatnot are listed on it, Indeed. And if there's money left in that fund, I ask you to please start advertising that position.
Chris, where are we on the advertising of that position? Did we boost that? Did we pay to boost that? Okay. Are we shy of funds? I mean, do we have enough money to post it where we need to? And just to jump back to the issue of the cats and the adoption, maybe Chris, if we can ask you to handle this. There have been some what appears to be credible stories of good people being denied the ability to adopt cats. Can we figure out what our requirements for adoption are? Obviously, we don't want to endanger the animals, but if it's a good family and there are too many situations where it seems unreasonable that these cats have not been adopted out for rules, at least in my mind, would seem silly. So can we refresh that, look into that? Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and hopefully that's done soon. I wanted to add that another wonderful adopter, approved already by the animal shelter, drove for 3 hours to come and adopt a dog. When she got there, she found out that they forgot to tell her she had to bring her own dog. I believe some officials were trying to rearrange possibly what they did years ago, which was to send a qualified. I have to tell you, some of your animal control officers are more qualified than the $109,000 behaviorists, but in any case, back then they would save, and some of them are still employed there on these transports to get that done. Instead, what happened, and I don't know how this happened, they asked the woman to drive again 3 hours, come back to the shelter. The woman got there. The meet and greet didn't work out. She pretty much begged them to find another dog out of 150 dogs. Well, you know how this story ends. She left without a dog and drove back home for the second time, 3 hours. Again, this is all under Michael Pastore and those that are on his little island. That should never happen in an animal shelter. This is a government shelter, tax-funded shelter. You have probably 150 dogs. I would think that one of them could have matched this outstanding adopter's home and her family. Instead, she left, never to return again. I've asked her. She says, I'm not coming back for the third time. So these dogs just sit there. and opportunities are denied left and right. The vaccination, and I'm glad you brought this up, Councilwoman, it's antiquated, the vaccination requirements for the animal shelter. I can't tell you how many people are turned away, even when they have vet notes saying that their animal cannot be vaccinated because they're elderly or sickly, and they're still denied animals. So Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter isn't just overflowing with animals like other shelters may claim. They're overflowing with animals because adoptions are being obstructed and rescue organizations are not being reached out to. I realize I'm out of time. There's a very troubling letter from Mr. Pastore here to the Animal Crimes Unit. He goes after the public. He goes after good Samaritans that are trying to intercede with animals that they feel are being neglected or in jeopardy of being hit. This is what Mr. Pastore is doing. This is the them versus us mentality. It's wrong. And I ask you to please do something immediately, immediately. When you have good volunteers signing up in other shelters, you have a crisis. So please take action. Thank you. I'll talk to you later about it. No, I don't want to hand anything to you, Mitch.
Well, good afternoon, Lucille, Merrick. Most of what I had to say, of course, was to the supervisor, Gillen, so right now I guess this is all senseless and I'm up here doing nothing. But you've been listening to me for years and we're still all in the same place. You know, that's the part that I'm really fuzzy about here, because we didn't get into this mess just this year. We got into this mess over years and years and years, and now somebody has to get us out of it. And all of this is just so reminiscent. I have to tell you, it does bother me. This, what's going on with the behaviors position? She's still there, and it's coming up to the end of the year. What's going to happen? Are we going to hear no one applied? The same thing we heard 2 years ago and 2 years before that? How come we have no assistant director who's applying for the position? The director's still sitting there. Everything's exactly the same. It is just the same. It is just too reminiscent of the same pattern that's gone over and over again. So I'm all for whoever changes it. And it certainly appears and seems that you guys have more power than her and her staff, because they're a bunch of fumbling fools that couldn't find their way out of a paper bag. We see that. We get that. They have lost all respect, especially from us. And it's not only from us, across the board. So you know we're here, you know we're watching, you know we're waiting, but we're not going to wait till the next election. I mean, we can't, these animals can't stand much more of this. It's sad. It's really sad what's being allowed to happen. They're stuck in this crossfire, they're stuck in this battleground, and they're suffering. And the foils are still the same. The amount of cats that are still dying in cages tells you that there's still neglect. There's neglect, there's abuse, there's incompetence. Somebody's got to do something. Can't keep waiting. Get people in this place who can make a difference. Find out why they're not applying for these positions that you so-called are looking for or searching for. It's not out there enough, that's all I can tell you. You have the money, take out a page in the Times and in Newsday, everywhere. The animals need help. Now, do we think she's coming back? Because what I have to say is the same thing over and over and over, but there's other people here who want to talk to her. Is she coming back? She's gone for the day. I wouldn't feel well either. If I were her, I'd be deathly ill. So, okay. So then hopefully we'll be talking to you. And we've been talking to you for a long time. I hope you do something soon.
Hi, my name is Diane Schaefer. I'm from Garden City Park. Last time I was here was unfortunately for speaking here, was for the Kill the Kitty fiasco. That was an embarrassment to not only the town, the county, the island, and probably all around the world through social media. I thought things were getting better after meeting Diane Madden and Lucille DeFina and getting on board with trying to help with that whole thing. And it did start to get better, but it just is not. And what I'm really most upset about is she's gone. And she was the reason why I campaigned, was because I believed in her. I stood on the steps with you, Sylvia, who I love, adore. No, you're doing your job. Went to high school with your in-laws. Anyway, campaigned for you too. I can't vote here, but my relatives can and my friends can. I put signs everywhere on people's front lawns. I campaigned for her, believing in everything that she told us right on the steps of this building of how she was going to help the animals, and she's not. It's worse. It's so much worse. I can't even begin to tell you how upset I am. My dog came from there, and thank God my pit bull is out of there. She's the most wonderful dog in the world. But at any rate, right now you have an issue with, which they have expressed to you, is that there are rescues there that are trying to pull dogs, and it's not happening. I personally got involved recently on social media because you have 3 bulldogs at your shelter. 2 bulldog rescues reached out. One didn't like the quality of the dogs, so they bowed out. The other one never got a call back, never got an answer to their email. They're still waiting. You have an overflowing shelter. You've got rescues like breed rescues. They're not the only breed-specific rescue that's reached out. They know the breed. They know the people that want to help these dogs, that want to adopt them. They're willing to take them in. It makes room for other animals that are there, and it's not happening. Something really needs to be done about that. Probably my last thing that I would like to say is that I agree with everything that Valerie said before. Thank God for those 3 ladies back there. If you were not going to listen to them, maybe you'll listen to the town of Smithtown, because the town of Smithtown has publicly thanked Diane Madden for all of her expertise, knowledge, and help. It actually says here, since I have time left, I would also like to thank Diane Madden for her unwavering guidance and help regarding this wonderful project at the Smithtown Animal Shelter, as well as other projects going on right here. Diane Madden has been invaluable to us. There's a whole big bunch. I could forward it to all of you, but come on, please. The animals need all of us. This is not just 1 or 2 or 3 people. This is a community. Thank you for listening to me.
Could you please give those specific complaints to Chris as far as the bulldogs so we can look into those?
Who's Chris?
Oh, sorry, over there. Thanks.
It's hard to hear.
About you, no. Did I hear this correctly before, Mr. Dunn? Did you consider putting on the side of a van, veterans' mental health van? Is that what you said?
I don't think any veteran wants a veteran pulling up in front of their house saying, Veterans Mental Health Van. showing the neighborhood that they're having problems. Veterans are very proud people. They don't want to share their problems. That's why there's a lot. It's very, very complex. They'll go to the VFW. They'll go to the American Legion. They'll go to
That's not my
farm-
question.
But
That's
no,
not
I did not say.
That's not my question. My question is, you suggested that if we somehow had this formula that we could do something about it, that a van would say Veterans Mental Health Van. I wouldn't want that either. How about just
Exactly
Veteran
what I said.
Services?
I said no.
That's right, he said no to that.
No, he made the suggestion, not
No, he
me.
did
No,
not.
he didn't. And whatever he might have said that there was, in the full context of Councilman Dunn's comments, were absolutely that he would think that was not appropriate. Now,
That's what he said.
Yeah.
It was not
I mean,
appropriate.
off the top of my head, I certainly could
Rory,
just think
Rory.
Veteran Services would be
Rory.
appropriate.
He said it right. It was mentioned by somebody else, but not by him. He didn't say that. Okay.
No, it was mentioned by Mr. Dunn. It was not, that was his terminology. I wrote it
Okay,
down.
Cue
let's-
the tape, then.
Just a minute.
Okay, well,
Let's
let's
show
move
her the
on.
tape.
Let's move on, let's move on, let's
Let's
move on.
Your
Okay,
time
can
is
somebody, because I didn't have enough time to ask these questions, it was,
running. Well, your time, you better hurry up because your time is running.
I know. Okay, on number 40, can somebody just explain to me what the cleanup of the constituent database means?
That's for Anchor. That was Anchor program.
Yeah.
We forgot to ask that question. What is it?
What is it?
I guess they could get rid of the, I don't know.
My clock is ticking and,
That's one thing I forgot.
What number?
That's the Anchor program. I figured it's because they have new residents coming in and then people are there. I don't know what number it was.
Number 40.
We finished with that.
I don't understand what that means, if somebody
That's
could
what I
just
think it
explain
is. Because they have privacy. It said Anchor?
No, that's the name of the company.
Oh, it really?
I believe from what I read, it is the database that's used for any townwide mailings. It's just cleaning up that database.
But don't we have an IT department here? Why,
Do we have an IT department here? Yes, we do.
how many people are employed in the IT?
I have no idea.
Like 50. Like, why aren't they doing that? I don't understand that.
You asked what the item was for. That's what I'm explaining.
Okay.
I'm sure that everyone there works pretty hard. I'm sure there must have been a reason as to why they needed to go outside to do this.
Okay, and on number 20, this I didn't understand either. They're renewing a lease on the Motoflex classroom. Specifically,
You talking about number 20? You mean Department of Conservation Waterways?
resolution number 20.
Okay.
Can somebody just explain it?
That's for the marine study. That's right. We finished with the count. Why are you doing this?
Just curious, because I didn't have enough time to ask these questions earlier, what it means, that's all.
The person, yes, would you answer that for her, please? Oh, Mr. Doucher, thank you. And you're supposed to be talking about public comments and miscellaneous.
This is a mobile classroom that we have students come to the marine nature study. We're in the process of renovating the building, so it's not that operational. So we're using this classroom to have children come.
And when you say you're in the process, that would mean now it's already been 2 years it's been mobile?
Yeah.
Now we're going to.
We may even have to do it again next year, depending on the construction and what's going on with the permits.
And the permits are to who?
To the DEC, but I think we're all in line to get this done. So we may use the classroom just to have students come through next year, and then we would get rid of the classroom.
Okay, great, thanks. And on number 38, there was a resolution amending the network connectivity. I had brought this up before. The network connectivity, when we come in here to use our computers, stinks. And I just want to bring it up again, that you guys are going to look into it, and I'm sure nobody has, but I just thought I'd mention it. And lastly, because this is something that I have done quite a few times recently, I had to do some research for some clients and looking into buildings in New York City. They needed, building permits, expediting things. It's so interesting. You can literally go online, for New York City and find almost any single document that you need. That same information, when I come to the town of Hempstead to try to get, I'm here for sometimes 4 hours. 4 hours, I got to schlep here from living out east. Why aren't we on computer? It is the largest township in America. It is just so sad. And I think it would be great, and nobody addresses this. You go into the building department, there's literally files higher than this podium. Just files piled up, and nobody knows what's going on. They can never find anything. And I think it's something that you guys should address. It's embarrassing. I mean, I'm used to it. I come here a lot, and nobody has done anything about it.
Mr. Rockamp, is there a way that we could modernize documents or is it an accurate description of
I wasn't
the
talking about
documents?
modernizing. I was talking about going online with everything.
Well, that would be modernizing, right?
I guess to a certain degree.
Good evening, council members. Yes, we have been working on that. Some of the things that we've done is we've taken 7 million images and digitized them and put them on the computer system, as well as we have a file track system that tracks 60,000 active folders that we have currently throughout the department. And we are always working with the IT department to try to make things more user-friendly via computer.
I mean, is it a question of funding? Is there anything holding that back, or?
That's part of it, yes.
Okay. So maybe we can look at that.
The 7 million images are not accessible online. You have to come here, and you have to physically sit in front of a computer. New York City, you don't do that.
Yeah, but if I may, I mean, if you turned around and put the images of people's floor plans online, I mean, it's sort of a safety issue.
They do it in New York.
All right, well, just because, listen, everything, I worked in New York City. Everything Bill de Blasio does is not correct, that's for sure.
It was way before Bill de Blasio.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, he runs the city. So just because they do it there doesn't mean it's right for the town of Hempstead. It's much easier to put building plans for large-scale buildings and not someone's single-family home that lives in East Meadow or Island Park.
Why is it easier?
It doesn't cause as big of a safety concern.
What safety concern?
You want people to have the ability to know everything that's going on, how your floor plans are. I mean,
What's the difference if I get it online or if I physically come here and look at it?
Because then we know who's accessing it.
Well, you pay a fee then, but you do it from home.
Well, I personally am not comfortable with that.
But wait a second, you're not comfortable with that, but you're comfortable with me going upstairs and looking at everything.
But we know who you are.
Exactly. It gives the building department the ability to know who's looking at the documents.
But you would have to give your credit card in order to get in there to get that information. So you're going to know who's looking at the document.
You got about how much time?
Mr. Rothkamp, could you explain the way that the process works currently and what safeguards are in place currently to protect homeowners from, whether it's someone who you have an order of protection against, an ex-spouse, or those types of scenarios?
Yes. As I was stating, years ago, if you would come here and you wanted copies of your plans, they were on microfiche, you would have to write down what you want, pay for them, you would leave, we would send them through reproduction, and in a couple days they would come back and we would call you to let you know that they were ready. By us digitizing these 7+ million records, now they are on the computer system. And the way we have it set up is you have to go to the front counter and ask for the permit number. It's not by address, so someone can't sit there and just start looking up people's houses randomly. You go to the front counter, you ask for the permit number. That's why we set it up that way. Then you could go into the real estate division, type in that computer number, that permit number, and it would bring up the floor plans of that house.
So obviously safety was a concern. I'm not just dreaming it up.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Again, you don't really want to have layouts of people's homes, which rooms their children are sleeping in, and things of that nature that could be a concern of people.
You know as well as I do, you don't put on a floor plan to boy's bedroom or it just says master bedroom on it. I mean, come on, who are you kidding?
That's the floor plan. If you do a floor plan, everything from that house is going to be on that particular.
Well, let me tell you all. I've looked up all of your houses, okay? So maybe you feel unsafe about that. But there is no reason
Why
that,
would you possibly want the floor plans from our house?
I don't want the floor plans. I want everything that's associated with your house to see if everything is legal. And if I was going to buy your house, I would want the floor plan instead of say I'm looking at your house, his house, her house, and his house.
Okay, I think this is enough of that.
I think you've made my point pretty clear. Thank you.
You know what?
Okay.
I don't want to have to go through looking at everything when I can conveniently do it from my computer.
But why are you doing that? It's because you're in real estate?
I do expediting.
And the difference between the town of Hempstead and the city of New York is the city of New York receives truckloads of money from the federal government and the state government. We get pittance from the federal government and the state government. So to compare us to what they do with the tons of money, our tax dollars that end up in New York City, it's shameful. We don't get any near the money they get to do the things that they do. And they should be better at what they do with all the money they get from us.
Okay, this is for public comment. We have some other residents who would like to speak.
My time is still up there.
You got only 1 minute.
Okay, so did they
That's
reduce
it.
the fee to 25 cents for the first copy?
Okay, I'm going to give you 50 minutes.
Out of the
50
machine?
seconds. Okay, thank you,
Thanks,
Lori.
Commissioner Rothkamp, for keeping the residents
you.
safe.
Okay, Miss Mary Ellen Craig.
Mary Ellen Cray, 436 Locust Avenue, Uniondale. Senior Councilwoman, I don't think you realize either your microphone wasn't on or you're not coming close enough to it, because at first we could not hear the names that you were calling, in the back of the room. So it's something.
It was on at one time, but I turned it off. Can you hear me now? I know you can hear me now, can't you?
On item number 93, I should have asked this before. I'm not clear what it was about Engel Berman. Did this set a hearing date for Engel Berman, 93?
No, it didn't set a hearing date. What was, Mr. Roth?
I believe it was just accepting the site plan, and was it Sequa 2 for A. Holly Patterson?
That's it.
It was accepting the site plan.
And so there is no hearing date or anything like that?
We had the hearing, I think, a year or so ago.
Yes, I'm just checking on whether there is something upcoming or not.
This is merely a site plan.
Thank you. Excuse me. Now, did I misunderstand, or I thought I heard that Michael Pistori asked for a transfer at the last meeting? I had heard something along that line. Is that correct, or did I misunderstand?
I think that the subject of Michael Pistori's transfer has been talked about at town board meetings for the past number of years. I don't know that Mr. Pistori himself has ever asked for a transfer. You've heard the board talk about it, you've heard some of the public speakers talk about it, but I don't think that he has ever asked for one.
I guess I misunderstood. I thought I had heard that. My next question is, for how many years did we have a confidential assistant to the receiver of taxes, please?
I don't know the answer to that question, but it's been in the budget for a number of years. But I don't know the answer exactly how many years. It's not a new position.
And was that filled over those years?
I believe so. It is, however, written out of the 2019 budget.
I understand that, but you would be able to let me know how many years it was filled previously?
I'll try to find out, yes.
Thank you, and you have my phone number, right? You can leave a message. Thank you. Okay, there were a number of questions about the calendar of events when I brought it up, and so I am asking that these be given to the board members, please. I hope I have enough, I'm not sure. I had asked at the budget time, the calendar of events, which is available in libraries and so on and so forth, whether the budget, what the budget was for it, and I have not been able to find it in the budget. You apparently misconstrued it. Somebody said that it was now with the Department of Parks and Recreation. I believe it's put out by Tourism.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. So what's the actual question?
Well, the question is, where is this in the budget?
This calendar event, I believe, is printed through tourism. So
That's what I thought. So I've been.
what's printed by the Parks Department is the seasonal park events, whether it's classes.
Yes, I'm aware of
Okay.
that. I'm aware of that. But when I asked the question at the budget hearing, it was misconstrued that what I was discussing, which was this, was put out by the Parks Department, which I knew was not correct. I do not see it anywhere in the tourism budget. So where is it? How much is it? That's what I had asked at the budget hearing, and I still do not have.
I'm not sure if anyone from the controller's office is here, but I'm sure we can get that information for you.
I would like to know.
So you want to know the calendar of events, which I believe is printed monthly
Correct.
from the tourism department.
Correct.
How much it costs? That was it? How much it
How
costs?
much it costs, personnel, printing, distribution,
Got it.
mailing,
Okay.
please. And what I'd like to know is further, the booklet put out by the Department of Parks and Recreation, which does indicate the courses and activities available. How will people know when to pick up that booklet, since we will not be getting it to our homes? It's only put out at certain times. How will we know when to go to pick it up at the parks or various locations?
I think that we haven't discussed this yet, but I think something that we can come up with is perhaps a calendar that we can get out there and let you know that on this day the book will be available and where it will be available. Parks, senior centers, museums, town hall, town buildings, the receiver of taxes office. I think we can try to, as a board, come up with a schedule that as of, July 31st, the fall booklet is available. As of February, the end of February, the spring would be available.
And we also said if they want to sign up for it, we can do that.
Since it varies considerably according to holidays and various religious events, this is not just a regular occurrence. It's not that easy to make it a regular occurrence.
I would also urge you to contact your council person and let them know that you're interested in it, and there's no reason why we can't mail it to you. It's just sending it en masse to everyone in the town of Hempstead. I mean, it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're just trying to cut back.
However, the calendar events is sent out. That's why I want to compare, since the senior citizens are the ones who are, in many cases, unable to go online or whatever to find out about these activities. My next comment is that it's taking 3 years to renovate some kind of building at the Department of Conservation and Waterways, and that's why we have a freestanding rental?
Yeah, it's not that it's really taken 3 years. It's that there's been permitting that's gone on. We've also looked for alternative funding to build the classroom. And to be honest with you, I've been down there. The park is in my district, and the classroom is really nice. It services hundreds and hundreds of school-age children from throughout the town of Hempstead on a weekly basis. It's doing the job that we need it to do right now, and I think that the Department of Conservation and Waterways is doing their best to, like I said, find alternative funding and make sure we can, get the best bang for our buck. We're not rushing into it because the classroom, the mobile classroom, is serving us well.
I see. It just seems an awfully long time. The people from West Hempstead seem to indicate a McMansion can go up in a matter of a month and a half. And I want to compliment Conservation and Waterways on their demonstration projects down there in Lido Beach. It's really very impressive, and I enjoyed the tour that the Sierra Club took.
Okay, thank you so very much. Good night, everybody. A good day. Good day. That's it. I have no more slips. Well, I'll give you 5 minutes. That's it. Because I do not have, I had one slip for you. That's it. I don't know. You may have been talking and forgot to listen to me. This is the last one. You can.
All right, so good afternoon. I'm going to go quickly. First of all, Mr. Ra, oh, good, you're here. What did you just say about Mr. Pistori not wanting to be transferred?
The question was asked, has Mr. Pistori asked for a transfer? That she had thought she heard that in this room. I don't know that we've ever heard Mr. Pistori ask for a transfer.
In May, at the town board meeting, Supervisor Gillen made a huge display over an email memo that she says that she sent to the entire board, stating that not only did Michael Pistori want to be transferred, but that the union had also approved of that, and so did his personal attorney. I just want to be clear. He wants to be transferred, correct?
I remember that meeting, but the question was, did Mr. Pistori ever ask for a transfer? And I'm telling you, to the best of my knowledge, he has never asked for a transfer.
So then, did Supervisor Gillen lie?
No. You said she had something from his attorney. That could be true. I'm not saying
said that
there's no. Let's be clear about something.
Yep.
Pistori has a tested civil service position. Those positions are very hard, and he has a very high title. That position is very difficult to come by, and it's very, very important to him. Any transfer of him would have him give up that title. I'm not so sure he really wants a transfer.
I'd like to go. Okay, so I'm going to.
And it'd be very easy for him to walk in here or go to HR and say, I want a transfer.
Okay.
But I don't think that has ever happened.
I am going to go back to the footage and I will pull it verbatim because I believe that Supervisor Gillen made a large display. In fact, Mitch also went and showed Diane the memo.
I have no doubt that the attorney may have said he wants to have a transfer. I have no doubt that the attorney said that. But I think when they went back and looked at the fact that he'd have to give up his tested position and then could be fired at any time, he may have changed his mind.
Yeah,
and I have no knowledge. I've never had a conversation with him.
Okay, well, in all fairness, though, from what I also understand, based on the last meeting of 2017, is that anyone can still be fired based on incompetence. So it's not as if everyone is bulletproof, right?
Yeah, but when you don't have the civil service title, as the president of the union would tell you, it's a little bit different. When you have a tested position, it's a little bit it's a little bit different.
I know it's different, but that's why, being told by the supervisor that he wanted to be transferred and that the union was on board with it, and so was his attorney. All right, I'm going to move on. I'll pull the footage. It's okay. And also, I'd like to meet with you after the meeting, Mr. Ra, to pick up our conversation from 2 weeks ago.
Let's not make this an issue where the supervisor misspoke or anything like that, because that's not what happened. His attorney, I am sure.
Well, no, in all due respect, what happened was the supervisor tried to claim that the town board was not being responsive to her and in her attempt to transfer Mr. Pastori. That's exactly what happened. That's how she was trying to paint the picture, is that we didn't respond to a memo, which agreed, there was no response, but the issue is not that you can't just transfer somebody. It's not as easy as that. So I think that was discussed at the meeting. We talked about it with the supervisor at the meeting, and it was, we kind of came to an agreement that it's not as easy. sure Mr. Pitnick was there as well. It's not as easy as just transferring someone. There are other moving parts to having someone who has a civil service title move into another area.
I'm familiar, Mitch Pitnick, counsel to the supervisor. I'm familiar with the memo. I'm familiar with the prior board meeting discussions. The supervisor's position is she sent the memo to the board. She would be willing and she would like to meet with the board soon to discuss the memo.
Why would the board meet with her when she calls them corrupt, when she insults them all the time, when she's suing them? I'm just curious, like that, is that the behavior of someone that you would want to sit down at a table with?
The town board is here. The town board is here to do the people's business. I'm not going to get into any
I think they're doing it.
The supervisor's
Let's
willing
just
to meet with
clarify,
the
I think
board,
we are
but
doing the people's business. Let's just get that off the table. And as far as, we had countless internal meetings on this issue, and it was in good faith. I think, Mr. Ra, you were part of it. We have other people in this room who participated in that conversation. So I think all of us in good faith are dealing with the animal shelter, and as you see, we've put forward a position, we're advertising for assistant director. So, but we are doing our job. I just want everyone to rest assured, despite some claims to the contrary, we are doing our job, and we were elected to do the people's business. We continue to do the people's business.
I would just say that I think it's appropriate to respond to the supervisor's memo or to at least include
We've had lots of public conversations about it. We have.
supervisor or her staff in the meeting for the discussion regarding Mr. Pastore.
Excuse me, I don't think you should discuss this anymore. She's not here, and you can't speak for her. You don't remember everything. You're not her. So I think we should do this when she's here.
I agree. So, and by the way, I kind of like this feeling. It's 357 days left till the next election, so I'm kind of getting used to the her not being here thing. Moving on, I wanted to give you some report of findings, okay, and point something out to you, which I think is incredibly important. My concern is that I believe there is a severe lack of equality going on at the shelter. I'd like to lock in on the volunteer program for today. Number one, 2 months ago, there was a woman who English is not her first language. She came here, pled her case as to why she felt that she was she had a personal vendetta, and the behaviorist, the unqualified, uncertified behaviorist, reported her as calling her a murderer, okay, which, by the way, is a word that she actually has a very difficult time saying. I'm of Hispanic descent. The word murderer is a difficult word for someone with a Spanish accent to say. That said, in tears, she came here talking about how emotionally attached that she is to the animals, how she cleans houses at night, goes to the shelter to walk these dogs, and she was suspended. It's been over 2 months, okay? Now, let's fast forward to also a couple of months ago. You have a volunteer by the last name Zizzo. Diane Madden, who's responsible for bringing this volunteer program to the animal shelter, was called a twat by this volunteer. That is a vulgar slang term. It's disgusting. I personally believe that when you volunteer somewhere, you're an extension of whatever entity or business or foundation you're representing. If I went to volunteer for the Red Cross and I called someone a twat, do you think they would put up with that? How is this tolerated? And this, by the way, is not a he said, she said case. Okay? This volunteer wrote an incident report where she admits calling Diane Madden a twat in writing. She's proud of it. I'd like to know how come she's not suspended. That does not seem fair and equitable to me. Additionally, I have personally been attacked by John Nussbaum, another volunteer, and the reason he attacked me is because he claims that I'm lying about the severity of the issues at the shelter and that I'm jeopardizing the potential adoptions for specifically the FELV cats. Now, I went to the shelter on my own accord, my own time, and I foiled every single cat that they would give me access to. Here's what I found. Number one, there's a case number 8464, which has no records on it. The cat is there. Her name is Minnie. It came back 0 records. I don't know how that's possible. Number two, In the cattery, there was a total of 18 cats. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the process of the cattery, but they give you a binder, and every single cat is supposed to be accounted for. In that binder was 16 cats. They were missing 2 cats. In the other FELV room, there was, I believe, 7 cats, and only 6 of them were documented with their profiles up on the screen. If anyone wants to talk to me about this, I mean, I think this is important. There's a discrepancy in the amount of animals that we have. There is abuse going on from the volunteers to the taxpayers and the constituents, and I'm still interested in knowing what happened to the investigation that I launched for being accused as anti-Semitic. I'd like to know. Do I get to know what happened with that? That's also not hearsay, okay? My husband-to-be had a conversation with head vet Dr. Siegel. He admitted to calling me anti-Semitic. My Jewish fiance.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Your time is up, but is it possible we can have you sit with somebody, Mr. Regina?
Please.
Attorney?
Sure. Yes, because I have more, by the way.
Would you sit with him, please?
Yes.
He's here, please. Maybe he went out because it's past lunchtime. He probably had to go to labor.
I'm hungry too, trust me. I went to a bris this morning and didn't even eat.
Okay. So let us set you up with him.
Okay. Mr. Ra, I'd love to pick up our conversation from the last board meeting too. Please. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Everybody feels like night to me now.
Who am I talking to? Oh, Mr. Regina. All right. I love him. Mr. Amorini. I have a question for him.